This episode was recorded on June the 9th, 2019.
Woo.
And in Cool Bodies Club first, it's an episode that we're recording and releasing on pretty much the same day.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So we're almost topical today.
Oof. Which is great for Where's Your Body At? And hey, let's kick this off. Sarah, where is your body at?
Oh my goodness.
Now, I'm just going to step in because this is a bonus episode. Rapid fire, where's your body at? It's 60 seconds, quick fire, so we can get into it. Are you ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, go.
Okay, so I had this belief about myself, and I thought it was that I absolutely loved winter. I loved being toasty warm. I loved being in the cold and the dark and all of those sorts of things. I absolutely do not love winter.
Oh.
Yeah, just don't like it. Not into it. It's not my bag.
What happened? What was the change? What flipped?
I think just stopping being in denial.
Oh.
It's like, I totally love this.
You know how sometimes it's a coping strategy if
Yeah.
you're like, oh yeah, no, I really like this. It's good. It's fine. It works. It's okay. And lots of people, like, I've been in relationships with people who really like winter, and so I kind of just got on board with that and was like, yeah, winter's cool. But yeah, I'm just not feeling it. And I don't know if it's this year or if it's just generally me. But for some reason I've felt a little colder, a little just uncomfortable and not very motivated. And I guess it's the winter blues.
Whoa.
It could be.
Yeah,
Could be.
so it might be just transit. What's the word I'm trying to look for here?
I don't know.
Transitory?
Yes, you know,
Is that
it
a
might just
word?
be a easing into winter kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Because the season is changing.
It has
Yeah,
changed.
but
And it's a real
I
thing.
don't know.
It
I'm
happens.
also just like kind of preparing myself to say, actually, all of these next 3 months, not going to be me. Not going to be my vibe. It's not okay.
So you're just going to hunker down.
Just gonna, don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe go on a holiday.
It's about to start
Oh.
the what's it called when the shortest day happens. That's going to happen.
solstice.
Solstice is going to happen soon, so it'll start getting lighter. And that always helps me.
Oh yeah, I think, and I was wondering about whether it was actually just the sun that is the thing.
You missed
that
some
bothers
vitamin
me.
D.
Could be.
Because the other day it was like last weekend when it was a long weekend, it was really grey and I felt really down. And then the next day it was sunny and I did a million jobs and got so much stuff done.
It does affect people.
Yeah.
Like they've done studies and chat, I've heard.
Studies in science and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's 2 minutes, but it's your
Well.
podcast, so
Yeah. So you
I
can do
guess
what
you
you
get to
want.
go.
I think I needed a rant. I needed to let that out.
Okay.
Yeah.
This could be the...
So just raging at winter.
Or I could do it again shorter.
No, that's fine. It's in the bag. Gemma,
Yes.
where's your body at?
Well, speaking
That's
of
what I was
winter, I'm really dehydrated at the moment, and I'm thinking it's because of all the heaters and the electric blankets and
Electricity.
You're
yeah,
not messing
all the
around, are
electricity
you?
running through me. But just like when I wake up in the morning, I'm like,
Interesting.
I feel
That's really interesting, babe.
like I need more
Yeah.
hydration at all times, and I'm
Yeah.
drinking a lot more water. And I
Okay.
think it's because it is winter and it's all getting sucked out of me because of all the heating and whatnot. But
Interesting. Yeah.
Well, first of all, glad to hear you're staying warm.
thank
I'm
you.
glad to hear that you're like, even though you're dehydrated, you're hydrating.
Yeah, because a lot of the times people just like,
Oh well.
I'm not going to listen to myself, but I'm listening to my body.
Do you hydrate with warm beverages or cold beverages?
Both.
Okay.
I am on the sips, like sipping hot, sipping cold, whatever. I'll take it.
I've been drinking a lot of fruit tea recently. We've talked about this off mic. That's pretty good. That's helping me stay hydrated
Yeah.
and delicious.
Is it sugary?
Probably. It's too good to be not. I'm not looking at the ingredients just in case it is.
Yeah. No, I'm trying to
Can
do.
you have sugar in fruit tea?
Yeah, well, fruit's got sugar.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if that translates really to hot tea.
60 seconds. So to summarize,
Okay, I'm
You're-
the winner.
Stay hydrated.
Sarah wins. Stay hydrated.
Yeah. Pro tip, stay hydrated.
Cool. All right. It's me, is it? I'm going to stick with the...
Hey, Mike, where's your body at?
Oh, what
Hey
a
Mike,
great
where's your
question.
body at?
Mike.
Gang, it's so good to chat.
Oh,
Hey,
no.
my body's wrecked is what my body is. I just moved house. I've moved back to Christchurch. That's the big news. Back in Christchurch. High five.
Wait.
Yes.
Oh, that was a
That was pretty good contact. Well done.
effort.
Let me see. I had to move house for the second time in 6 months, which was a pain, and it was doubly painful because every single person in my family got really sick. And so that was a thing. And now I'm starting to get a bit sick. But anyway, that's a boring story. What's interesting is I wanted to talk about my go-to I've got the sniffles self-care regimen, which is Hankerchief exhibited here, covered in Olbas oil.
It smells amazing.
Are we aware of Olbas oil?
No.
I have that, you know, that thing where a smell is associated with an emotion.
Oh.
So for me, whenever I smell that smell, I'm like, oh, Mike is ill.
Yeah, because you two worked in close quarters. So
yeah. So it's like, oh, it's just Mike's sick smell.
I'm not aware of how much other people can smell it, because whenever I'm smelling it, I can't smell very well.
True. It smells like eucalyptus oil.
It is, I think.
Yeah, maybe you should give it a whirl when you're not sick one time, and then you can sort of...
It's like when you walked into the room, it wafted in with you, and I was like, oh, that's some nice deodorant or something.
Well, so I was going to say...
It's minty fresh.
I was going to say, is it like deodorant level of stank?
Yeah,
is it like if I'd hose myself down with
no,
Lynx?
because Lynx or whatever that yucky stuff is.
That teenage boy deodorant that I always wear.
Is a different smell, definitely.
Oh yeah,
this smells quite natural. Yeah, and fresh. It smells like an icy mountain.
It smells comforting.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
It comforts me. It's weird. It was what I always got when I was a kid and I was ill.
Does it work? Like, what does it do?
I don't know.
It makes you feel comfortable.
It just makes me feel better.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't actually fix anything. I think I've had probably the best part of 2 minutes there as well. So if Olbas Oil or the makers of are listening, you know, feel free to sponsor me and send me a big box of Olbas Oil.
Sponsor you?
Yeah, just me.
What the hell?
Not even in the podcast, just sponsor me in life to be an ambassador.
What can I get? Somebody send me some water?
Some water for jam.
Someone send me a new season.
New season.
Send you a holiday.
Yes.
Oh my God. Holiday.
Yeah.
Holiday.
Holiday for
anywhere
Sarah.
where there's pina coladas and coconuts.
Okay.
And gin.
Okay.
Oh, that's like the supermarket.
Yeah.
Oh, man, no.
You're not going very far, love.
We can fix this mood with a trip to the supermarket. This is easy.
Does that make it better? Am I closing in the gap?
Yeah, we can go to Bunnings and get some play sand.
Yeah.
It's
all here for
bucket
ya.
and spade.
This is not what I was wanting.
Hey, so
What are we talking about today?
well, that was fun. Where's your body at? Rapid fire. What we're talking about today is, well, our values as an organization, as a team, as a club, as a thing, as a podcast. Last month, listeners will have noticed that we did, Sarah and I it was up in Nelson, in fact. We did a bonus episode about the why behind Cool Bodies Club, why it exists.
It always makes me want to sing that song.
What song?
Tell me why. That one.
I always get
the other one.
I always
the
get the Backstreet Boys one. Tell me why. Anyway, we did a why episode. Tell me why. And then Sarah, you thought that you wanted to go a bit deeper into
I do want to go deeper.
the values to explain what's going on there. So, what's going to happen today, listeners, is we're okay.
So the values are... Shall I say them?
Yeah, you go ahead.
Value, connection, and learning.
Oh gosh.
Woo!
They're very succinct, aren't they? It's almost like we worked on them for 6 months.
Yeah, would you believe?
To a year.
Yeah.
6 months to a year, yeah. So we are going to put these values back to Sarah, and Sarah's going to chat to us about what they mean.
And do the deep dive.
And do the deep dive. So Gemma.
So the first one is value, and the sort of thinking around that is that your inherent value is never in question. We value your value, full stop, with an exclamation mark. So can you...
A very intentional exclamation mark.
Give us a deep dive on that one.
Yeah, so what this means is that Cool Bodies Club is all about your inherent value as a person. So what we're saying here is that your value is never in question, and it isn't dependent on your physical or mental space that you are in now or forever. So what we're saying is right now you have inherent value. So there are a bunch of narratives that teach us that this isn't the case, and that I feel, and I think we all feel, that these narratives need to go in the bin.
Into the bin. Yes.
I like how you linked that back.
I also have some bin emojis.
Oh, good.
Sitting here.
In your own notes.
Yes, yeah. I like.
I love
you
that.
got to color in your notes with emojis.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was just going to say, what got us to that point, apart from hundreds and hundreds of Post-it notes? Where
actually,
did that come from?
I have a giant book here right now with me with Post-it notes that literally would fill a room. It's something.
It's something to behold.
Something else. So we did a deep dive. Mike, what were you looking at?
No, values up there. We've put some of our notes back up on the wall to remind us of the process we went through.
And what we did is we went around.
And actually, the tagline is on one of those Post-it notes. Your inherent value is never in question. We value your value. Full
so
stop.
That's our
it was
explanation of our value.
That was where it got to.
Yeah. Do we want to talk about the process that we went through? Nah.
We did. We drank a lot of wine. We wrote on a lot of Post-it notes.
Asahis.
Yeah.
Lots of Asahis. Yeah.
And just any ideas that we had about values for the podcast, we put them on a piece of paper, and then we sort of whittled them down to these core values.
Pretty much.
And I think that it's what really took a lot of work, and a lot of the reason it took so long is I think that this thinking about bodies is really complicated, and I think we potentially approached it in a way where we thought we could just go deep dive in, but what we really needed to understand initially was what it was that we believe in, how we were going to approach this as a group. And I think one of the key issues that we pinpointed is that the narratives that we are learned and the structures that are in place devalue us as humans. And what we really want to get across in this podcast is that we all have value.
Cool. I think that's quite a good place to end that one.
Yeah.
Probably. Okay, so that's covered value. Our next one was connection, and we expanded that out to mean we believe that connection is a tool that activates change. Tell us a tale. How did you get there, Sarah?
So I guess, this again came out of a lot of conversation and a lot of learning. And we didn't just arrive at any of these values. Like we actually, we have in real life Into the Bin.
Yeah, we do.
Do you remember that?
It used to be on the wall. Yeah.
And we would put words into the bin, or ideas into the bin that we felt weren't quite right, and it was an iteration. There were certain words that we used at the beginning of the podcast that 2 months down the track we were like, absolutely not, into the bin. But for me, we believe that connection is a tool that activates change. It really reminds me a lot of that interview that I had with Sonia Renee Taylor, where she talks about how oppression thrives in isolation. And so when I think of this particular value, what I think is that when we as individuals listen to others, when we change the way we think, when we change the way we talk, when we do the work, when we put our learnings into action, we create real change within our community. And those actions actually essentially have the power to literally change the world. That's what that value means to me and to us.
Yeah, one of the post-its up there reads, healthy connection leads to strength in society. Another one, what have we got? Stories start changes, and sharing stories to enable change. Those are some of the sort of thinkings that got us to that point. Because
there are certain scripts that we learn, and when we listen to others and we share in someone else's experiences, we have a learning opportunity there to change our script and to then change the way we act in our own individual lives, which then, affects our communities, affects the others around us. So we believe that connection is a way that we can activate change.
And we do that through
interviewing our guests.
And also the Instagram community.
Exactly. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. There's heaps of ways in which we try to create that space for connection.
The third and final value that we've got is learning, and that we are committed to endless learning and unlearning.
So, this was something that I think we learnt about this value pretty much as soon as we started opening up this can of worms of looking into the space of bodies and looking into oppression and prejudice and all of those things. We pretty smart learnt that we could never know everything, and Cool Bodies, our stance on this is that we completely reject the notion that you can master these conversations and that you can ever be an expert. What we do know is that we will get things wrong and we're going to fuck it up, essentially. But we believe that it's much more harmful to not be having these conversations than having imperfect conversations. So we're committed to both learning and unlearning. And I think it's quite worthwhile focusing on the unlearning word too, because I think we often think that in these spaces it's just about learning, but it's actually also about taking a step back and rethinking a lot of the things that we have learnt and going back to, I don't know, a space of self-reflection, or I don't know how you
because we've already got
it.
a lot of internal bias that has just been like, we've internalized a lot of these, like, what are supposed norms.
Yeah.
And that, dictates how we think about certain people and our bodies and all of these sorts of things. So it's actually having to really do a deep dive into yourself. And, unpack all of that sort of shit.
And that does draw back to looking at those other values that we have too, because when we say, hey, you're connecting with someone, you're listening to someone's story, you then have that moment, that opportunity to then listen and then do some unlearning. And so I think it's really cool, that space where, when we have our interviews on the show, they're talking to us about certain things. It provides us with this cool opportunity to learn and unlearn.
Just thinking about that learning and unlearning, there was a big thought around you didn't want people to have to do the emotional labor for us or like other people.
Yeah, because I think it would have been easy for us to just get people on and then ask them, so can you tell us about how we should, our listeners should do better.
Yeah.
And, that's really exhausting and not something I want to get behind. And so that's why I think we created an interview process and questions that where the person gets to lead how they want to answer those questions. And before a person comes into chatting with me, we sit down and we have a chat about the questions, and I say things like, you lead what you want to say. I'm happy for you to say as much as you want to say, as little as you want to say. This is your space, this is your thing. And for me, that is about what you were just talking about there, where it's they get to make a choice, the person gets to make a choice about how much they want to inform or not inform, or share or not share.
Yeah, we've got our post-it notes up in front of us. There was a post-it note that says uncomfortable and unsettling as well.
Yeah. So I think maybe all as a team, we know that these conversations are hard, and there is a certain discomfort, and I think becoming aware that you can't just retreat from that discomfort. Like, you actually just have to get in there and start to have these conversations.
Lean into it.
Yeah.
I was, so just to speak personally, I suppose, about when this whole process was happening, when we were learning about all this stuff, and when you and I had been talking about the podcast, and you two had done the first version, you'd recorded a couple of things back in early 2018.
We did one version, essentially
pre-values,
pre-everything. Just gave it a whirl.
Yeah. And then because I originally was just going to help out with the writing post-it notes, and then got sort of absorbed into the whole thing.
I think you mean facilitating
the value session. But in the learning, in the uncomfortableness, because I remember writing some of those, and it was when I was first starting to take serious my learning about
the learning journey.
When I was on my learning journey.
Yeah, we used to call it the learning journey, which is kind of embarrassing.
That's what it is.
No way. It's awesome.
We worked through all these things. But I was listening to a lot of The Guilty Feminist, and Feminists Don't Wear Pink and Other Lies. And I was really learning a whole lot of things that I didn't really know. I always considered myself quite sort of like, I always thought I was a pretty good guy, I thought I was like, I know I'm pretty open to being cool and everything. But it was challenging to listen to, because it made me unlearn things.
Yeah.
And it made me learn a lot of things.
And
as
I
well.
think that's a really interesting thing that you've just brought up, and I think a really important conversation to be having as well, because, you know, I think sometimes us, the people who think that we are, you know, all down with being open-minded and all of these sorts of things about others or difference, that potentially we're really blocking ourselves from actually doing the real work.
That's exactly right, yeah.
Because we've said, hey,
I've already got it down.
I've got it down.
Yeah.
This is, well, I'm fine. I vote this way, or I do this stuff, or I do that stuff, and it's actually, this work requires so much more than that, and that particular space to be in, and not being self-reflective of it, is such a block to moving forward, I think. And so that's cool that space, you know, created an opportunity for you to keep
Learny journeying.
Hashtag learny journeying. There's a hashtag get learnt up there as well.
And learn to spell wrong.
Yeah, I know.
LERNT.
There's a lot of spelling mistakes.
Get
in
learnt.
there. I put one of those post-its up the other day, and I was like, I bet I spelled unapologetic wrong.
Did you? You did. No, it's right.
Is it? Oh, that's cool. Do you
got
guys
it.
remember when I came up with unapologetic?
Get it.
Unapologetic.
So into it for ages. I was like, unapologetic.
That seems like maybe that's an appropriate point to wrap up.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening.
Yes, thank you very much.
Listen to more. Tell your friends.
Share, like,
subscribe.
5 stars. 5
5
stars.
stars. Give us 5 stars, actually. That's what we need.
Yeah. A review.
Lots of stars and reviews. And just listen and just tell people about it. Be that person. Say, oh, have you heard about this podcast? It's really cool.
Did
you just burp?
Bodies are so cool.
I feel embarrassed.
I rubbed my eye with my Olbas Oil hand, and I really wish I hadn't. That's where my body is now.
no.
Well, I really need to pee, so shall we?
Okay, let's wrap it up.
Stuff.
Thanks, gang. Hey, it's good to be back. It's good to be in the same room. Vibes. Okay.